Good morning. A new era has dawned. I'm going to be on time and on message every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Yes, it's shocking, but why not be on time? And then we can all get on with our day. So, another change of format, friends. I am going to work inside of a 10 topic framework. So, we'll be doing a super fun countdown today, and we'll see how that goes. Now, the third thing, so I've got on time, I've got this format of this 10 topics, so you know where we are in the show. And then finally, and this I think is the most important thing, we've been working toward a place, I think all of us, of equilibrium after last Tuesday's election. And I spent yesterday evening, I went out with my older brother and he took me to this really cool place called Third Man Records in Detroit on Canfield Street. And they not just sell records and press them there, like seriously, like vinyl, but they also have bands play. And I heard the most amazing instrumental bands. I don't want to call them jazz. It's hard to describe exactly. Unbelievable. The first one was called Infinite River, and it just took me out of myself. So I'm encouraging you, as I said at the outset on Wednesday morning, find your communities in person, find art. And when you find your communities of people, and you know, the word we talk about is organize sometime. How about let's use the word bond? How about find spaces where it's not about politics? So I'm very certain all those folks are devastated by what happened on Tuesday, but be in a space of creativity, a space that transcends the moment, a space of possibility, love, and connection. Because to me, the best way to live through and get beyond systems of oppression is to avoid participating in them. Every hour we spend, I think every hour anyone spends calling themselves resistance or in the mode of resistance is stealing part of our soul. So I've made this big decision that I am not part of the resistance. That was so very 2016 through the election of 2016 through January 20th of 2021. That's not who I am. I am part of a living, breathing, productive, creative community that is going to build itself. We are going to be what I think I've heard the expression is when someone shows you a dirty glass of water and a clean one, they'll choose the clean one. Well, guess what? We just found out that people will choose that dirty glass of water time and time again, but I don't have to drink it. Again, there's this expression, that people will choose what's better. Well, you know what? It's not up to me to have people choose what they think is good. I'm not going to spend the next 4 years or even the rest of my life telling people, don't drink that dirty glass of water. I'm going to spend my time with people who want fresh water. I'm going to spend my time creating and being and living and rebuilding all the parts of myself that have been sacrificed by this Trump regime that hovered over us all these years. Okay, does that mean I'm going to succumb, that I'm not going to protect people? No, I'm going to continue to be a lawyer and do what I can that really matters. And let me be very clear. I helped organize and lead a march, the tax march. And I was really glad to have done that. But to me, that is not going to be how I operate in the world now. We're in a different world. And for me, maybe not for you, I will not be going to rallies in the streets. I will not be speaking at rallies. I will not be marching. I will not be knitting pink hats. I will not be wearing wristbands. That might work for some people. Some others might think it's just performative. I am just backing off that negativity because every minute I'm fighting against something, I'm centering that thing. But let's do the top 10. So the top of the news today, guys, is what the hell happened to the rule of law. And I'm sorry to say, as I laid it down when Jesse Eisinger was here last week, thank you very much, Merrick Garland, for not doing your job. Thank you very much. So let's start there. Topic 10. Our topic 10 of the day is this question. Will Jack Smith drop the criminal case against Donald Trump, and should he? So let's take a look at this. And I think I can make myself small and this a bit bigger. So what I'm looking at here was the filing from last week. This was, I'm going to read it to you. This was in the criminal case, United States of America versus Donald Trump in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. And this was the government's unopposed motion to vacate briefing schedule. Let me unpack that. Government meaning Jack Smith, the special counsel. And you see this, he signed this. Unopposed means the defense, meaning Donald Trump's side, did not oppose this. And vacate means wipe off the record, the briefing schedule, right? So all of the briefing schedule that happens, before more discovery and before trial is being wiped off the record. Okay, let me read. This is what the request is. So let me read this to you. As a result of the election held on November 5th, 2024, the defendant is expected to be certified as president-elect on January 6th, 2025. This is small anyway, so I'm just going to read it to you. Yikes. I'm having trouble making myself smaller. Okay. So the government respectfully requests time to assess this unprecedented circumstance and determine the appropriate course going forward, consistent with Department of Justice policy. Now, here's the key point. By December 2nd, 2024, the government will file a status report or otherwise inform the court of the result of its deliberations. The government has consulted with defense counsel who do not object to this request. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, we don't know what it means. What we know is that we will for certain have an answer as to what the Department of Justice's plan is 3 weeks from today, December 2nd of this year. And let me show you what the judge's response was before we talk about and unpack the possibilities. Okay, so here is what the judge said in response. This is it's just this minute order filed on the docket. There's no document attached. And this happened on the 8th of November. So it happened like the same day this filing occurred. And let's read this. So the 8th, that was Friday, minute order as to Donald J. Trump. The government's unopposed motion to vacate briefing schedule is hereby granted. All remaining deadlines in the pretrial schedule are vacated. That means wiped off, go away. By December 2nd, 2024, the government shall file a status report indicating its proposed course for this case going forward, signed by Judge Tanya S. Chutkan. Okay, guys. Wow. Whew. Intense. I don't even think that I'm angry at Merrick Garland because that's a waste of my psychic energy. But what I do know is he's 99% to blame here. And I've heard people say, oh, why are people blaming Merrick Garland for his delay? Why aren't they mad at John Roberts of the U.S. Supreme Court? Because taking the case around the immunity question is what slowed this down. Well, you know what? Hello, math. Hello, math. Welcome to math. If there had been a special counsel appointed the day after Merrick Garland took office in March of 2024, this would have moved forward a lot faster instead of 18 months later. And I know it takes time to gather information and the like. But remember, the January 6th committee had already completed its work. Remember, if a special counsel had actually been appointed, they would have been on it instead of doing what Merrick Garland was trying to do, which is suppress voices in the Department of Justice, which we know that's what he was doing. And I'm not saying that the fix was in. I'm saying his naive mission was that Donald Trump is going to go away and that we could just move past the 4 Trump years and that we could calmly and slowly, let the country, relax and maybe make it look like the Justice Department, was regain trust in our institutions. Saying these words, regain trust in our institutions, bothered me at the time. People spoke about it because the institution was rotten at its highest levels. Remember, Bill Barr, who'd been the Attorney General, had suppressed the truth about the Mueller report. But that is the past, right? Oh, and let me do the math. I'm sorry. If this case had been brought forward, if the indictments had even been happened a year before they did, then this would be, instead of being right now, November of 2024, it would have been November of 2023. And that case would have moved forward and Donald Trump wouldn't have been the nominee. There's no other way to look at this. It is a fact. And it's, well, fact. I mean, I can't for sure know it, but there would have been a better shot of bringing him to justice. So where are we now? Well, I'm curious. Ada Benedict said, Merrick Garland, he simply wanted his job to feel important. Well, he spent his whole life wanting to be a Supreme Court justice. And when, someone who acts really humble and, I'm just standing behind, these important institutions. Listen, he is sincere. I've seen him speak. Actually, I was kind of, trash talking him the other day, but I've seen him speak at public events where he's a keynote speaker, and he really believes in what he's saying. He's not cynical. He's just clueless about how power actually works. That's the problem. And that's what's sad. But where do we go from here? Now, guys, what Jack Smith can or should do now is really not in his hands, right? He was appointed as a special counsel, but he is in this window of time. We are in the interregnum, and it is, what are we, November 11th. And let's imagine for a second that Jack Smith wanted to move forward with the case, right? We know that would require several different things to happen. There's a little bit of reality hitting us. Let's say Jack Smith decided to continue with the pretrial schedule, right? What do you think is going to happen on January 20th at 12:01 p.m. when Donald Trump takes office? Do you think he's going to dick around the way Merrick Garland did? I mean, look, it's really hard to imagine him not immediately appointing someone to be his attorney general. And I know you're thinking, oh, there has to be Senate confirmation. Well, you can have a temporary, an acting attorney general in place if they've already been through the confirmation process. He could pick, I don't know. Well, Bill Barr might not want to do it, but there are plenty of others who have been through the Senate confirmation process who would be able to be in that acting role. And that's 12:01 p.m., 12:02 p.m., case dismissed. Okay, so that is the window we're looking at. I don't think it's humanly possible between today, or legally possible between today and January 20th. I probably said 2021, January 20th, 2026. I'm sorry, 2025. I'm getting my dates wrong. I don't think it's possible between now and January 21st, 2025 to start the trial, to finish the trial, and to reach a verdict. Why do I think that's possible? Because that's not even on the existing schedule. So this is where Jack Smith is. So his choice right now, there are some choices. Well, his choice right now is to see what Merrick Garland wants him to do. Because Jack Smith right now is in a position under the law where he has to write a recommendation for declination, to decline the case, or to recommend to prosecute it. Well, let me say there's a couple different things. I mean, they could just say to the judge, we're just moving forward and we're just going to sit here and see what happens. We're not dropping the case. Well, let me back up. No matter what, he's going to have to say that because he's no longer going to be a special counsel January 20th, 2025. So that is a report that's given to, as you know, the Attorney General, who's supposed to release it to Congress and maybe doesn't have to release it to the public. Now, will that report, will it be a recommendation to prosecute? Will it be a recommendation to decline the prosecution? Obviously, the Department of Justice has a policy not to bring cases against a sitting president. I think it's going to be very difficult to do that, given that this president would actually dismiss the case against himself, and that the statute of limitations wouldn't run because the case has been filed, but there could be an ironically Speedy Trial Act argument that Donald Trump says, I want this done, although in this case he's vacated it. Okay, so what's going to happen is he's going to write this recommendation, and whatever he writes, it will be up to Merrick Garland to release. That's a very short time frame. I don't think he can write that by December 2nd. I don't think there's a draft in place. So the question is, if he makes a recommendation to decline, maybe release all the records publicly, what good will that do? Well, we'll have it for the historical record, because otherwise all of this is going to disappear. So it's tricky, because if he doesn't decline the case, how do I say this? If he declines the case, then maybe he can release these records. Maybe. If he says we should move forward, which may seem like the honorable thing, then the case is moving forward. I don't think he could do it. I don't think it makes sense. And I think it could be stopped. Now we've got a third thing. No matter what he proposes to do, Donald Trump is going to object to the release of these records. And that will, of course, maybe go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So I guess what I'm saying, you guys, is I like what Roxanne Epstein says. I think the best thing is release it to the public. Now, again, it's going to be released. It's going to be a dirty bucket of water. We can point to it all we want and say, look, guys, this is what he did. And those people who don't want to see it won't want to see it. But the rest of us need to for the future, because he won't be in office forever. His dynasty is going to crash and burn. Or if it doesn't crash and burn, we had a good run. And we, as I said at the outset, will build our communities in spite of the system that is in power. Okay, so let us now do number 9. What is my 9th topic of today? I've got what we need right now, which is a little bit, guys, of good news. Are you ready for it? Okay, let's play it.
Some huge news. There were some major Democratic victories across key states around America that no one is talking about. First, abortion rights were enshrined in several states, including Missouri and Arizona. In addition, it was enshrined in Montana, Maryland, Colorado, Nevada, and New York. But not just that. In Alaska and Missouri, you had a minimum wage increase go into effect, along with you kept the majorities on the Supreme Courts in Montana and Michigan while flipping the majority on the Supreme Court in Kentucky. You defeated vouchers in Nebraska and Kentucky and broke through the supermajority in the North Carolina legislature. Folks, a lot of these victories are going to be overshined by what happened on the presidential level and the Senate level and potentially even the House. But at the end of the day, these are real victories that are going to help everyday residents across the country. So I want your help. Spread the word. And as always, follow along, stay up to date on all the news you need to know about.
Okay. And for those folks in the chat, yes, several of you, Joy Hine mentioned that is Lev Parnas's son. Yes, that is Aaron Parnas. Lev Parnas, I think you all know who he is. He's the Ukrainian American. And who was, you should watch the Rachel Maddow special. It's fascinating, who kind of got caught up in Donald Trump's world and the whole Rudy Giuliani, efforts to try to get Vladimir Zelensky back in 2019 to step up to a microphone and lie about Joe Biden. Okay, so that is a little bit of good news. I think we need another little patch of good news. This will be Item 8. Now, item 8, to me, it's good. And we'll talk about the flip side. There's always, a duality here, the yin and yang of this good economic news. Let's play it.
The economy that Scott has been rolling his eyes at under Joe Biden at 12:01 p.m. on January 20th, Donald Trump and every Republican out there is going to say it's the greatest economy on the face of this earth. And they will be celebrating how fantastic it is, right? So the prediction number 1. Prediction number 2 is that if there's a Trump Tower Shanghai, or Ivanka gets a few more patents, or something happens in China and the Trump family, the Kushners get to build some sort of resort, those China tariffs will probably not come to fruition. Because if there's one thing we know about Donald Trump, there's one thing that Saudi Arabia knows about Donald Trump, there's something that Qatar knows about Donald Trump, something the Chinese and the Russians know about Donald Trump. If you make it worth his while financially, all the promises on the tariffs and everything else will magically disappear, and they know that.
Tara, do you?
So I love what Julie Wiginski just said there, and let me unpack it so we can kind of bridge to our next topic. The first thing is, yeah, Joe Biden did an amazing job in his administration. If you think about, I was talking to Michael, hey Michael, yesterday about sort of how we move incrementally and how some big changes happened during President Obama's term, for example. That's when we got the Affordable Care Act. Is it perfect? No. Has it insured so many million more people and made in terms of who couldn't have healthcare, who don't have healthcare through their employer, for example, private business owners, small law firms, whatever. I can think of tons of people, families who don't have the kinds of jobs that are required because of the number of hours to provide insurance. In addition, for those of us who do get insurance through our employers, the insurance companies can't deny us because of pre-existing conditions, right? So someone like me, I didn't realize asthma was such a big deal. It's a big pre-existing condition. I only need to use an inhaler like twice a year, but that could prevent me, if there weren't the Affordable Care Act, from moving employers because they may say they wouldn't cover me. And how could you take a job if there were an emergency situation and your insurance would say, well, the hospital won't cover you. That's a big risk. Okay. So that's one thing that happened, right? During the Obama administration, during the Joe Biden administration, Joe Biden has rebuilt to the envy of the world, a post-COVID economy that is thriving. We have, of course, the stock market at an all-time high that doesn't affect all of us. He's trying to reverse the growth of inflation, which has been a problem. And obviously, Kamala Harris wanted to deal with the price gouging that was going on by the monopolistic firms as part of her agenda. That's not going to happen. But Joe Biden also accomplished the child tax credit, which lifted millions of kids and families out of poverty. We were on our way, right? And the reward for doing a good job here, when people spread misinformation, such as Elon Musk on his platform and others like Joe Rogan, misinformation, lying about what's going on here, people will say, well, it's not that great. And so you know what Donald Trump is going to do when he is handed this excellent economy? He's going to claim credit for it. He'll just say, oh, the economy was only good because people knew I was going to win. Now, there's something else she said, which I thought was really interesting. And this is going to get us to number 7, our 7th topic. She said that, Donald Trump talks a big game, but his foreign policy is really based on his private pocket. And if there's money to be made, she says, he'll just bend his plans to do that. Now, yes and no, right? But with Donald Trump, it's the carrot and the stick. And that is what concerns me, right? The carrot is, you can just show him the money and he'll bow down. We know that. But he is and has always been Putin's puppet. Too bad y'all didn't believe Hillary Clinton when she said that. And I'm not talking to you, my friends, but that's a fact. And you know how we know? Let's do item 7. Item 7 on our countdown today is this. In a gesture, and an odd gesture. And I don't want to say you got to admire Vladimir Putin, because that's not something that should come out of my mouth. But I'll tell you, he's so fucking smart compared to Donald Trump, who's a complete idiot. Listen to what, and I'm not saying anything good about him. I'm just pointing out Vladimir Putin knows how to push Donald Trump's buttons. What was his odd congratulations to Donald Trump after he won, you guys? You know what? If our fucking press had the balls that Vladimir Putin did, Donald Trump would have been hounded by this. But I'm swearing. Our press, our mainstream press and even me, because I don't want to be anti-feminist or I don't want to body shame. I'm a moron, right? What should I have been doing from day one? Exactly what Vladimir Putin is doing, right? To congratulate Donald Trump, did this. We'll talk on the other side. And I blame myself as a feminist and everyone else around me for not doing this to him, because we didn't, now Putin owns him. Look at what they did. This is Russian television. Let's play it.
Трамп. Муж, наконец, победил, готовится во второй раз стать хозяйкой Белого дома. А вот так Мелания выглядела в 2000 году. Смотрите, обложка глянцевого журнала GQ. Будущая первая леди в неглиже лежит на шкуре. В самом журнале сексуальные фото Мелании у частного самолета и на его борту. На одном из снимков модель в бордовом белье лежит на синем ковре с изображением большой печати США, государственной эмблемы Америки. Как будто в редакции мужского журнала что-то знали заранее о будущем своей модели.
You see what just went on there? That is not a compliment to Donald Trump. That is a warning. That is a shot fired across the bow saying, I own you. And right now, what he's doing is sharing. Sherry, those are not photos that were included in her book. This is Melania in her be best or be nastiest phase, right? This is her doing her nude modeling and also soft porn modeling in magazines. And that's her body, great, but that's not why Putin's putting it up there. He is doing this as a warning and a threat and a way to diminish Donald Trump. It's his way of saying, I can show this, but I have other photos, buddy. I have other things to put out there about you. And we are too classy, and I'll include myself in this, that we don't want to bring this up because what in the world does it have to do with anything? But it is now so hidden. People don't talk about this. I was talking to a relative. I was talking to my mom like months ago, and she was saying, she is a Republican, but she's not a Trump supporter. But she said to me the other, I don't know, maybe it was a few months ago, she said, why didn't Vogue magazine just give Melania her cover? And I said, Mom, she's been a cover girl. She was in soft porn photos with other women and things like that. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but did you know this? And she had no idea, right? Okay, so there's that. So what else does Vladimir Putin have up his sleeve? We shall see. And that brings us to number 6 in our countdown. Number 6 in our countdown is, speaking of Vladimir Putin, some choice words that Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine had to say to Kristen Welker this weekend. I love this man.
President Zelensky, thank you so much. Before you go, if you want to share, what keeps you going? Do you ever feel defeated?
I have a lot of power, but even feeling strong and have a lot of energy, it doesn't mean that we want to fight all our life, because the price is high, like I said, because the war takes the best of us, the best heroes, the best men, women, children. That's it. But we are not ready to give our freedom to this terrorist Putin. That's it. That's why we are fighting. That's it.
President Zelensky, thank you so much.
He called him an effing terrorist. Wow. That is courage personified. Meanwhile, here in the U.S., we also have, for item number 5 in our countdown, other courageous people, leaders who are going to stand up to essentially, it's like the Tiananmen Square tank that is headed our way. And here is one person.
Are calling and have called for an emergency.
I'm sorry, I want to say who this is. I think this is the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, remembering that states have power, that this nation is the United States of America, not state. Let's go.
Are calling and have called for an emergency special session of our state legislature, firmly focused on the values we hold dear that I think are universal values and are American values as it relates to freedoms and individual liberty, as it relates to the issues of reproductive freedom in particular, as it relates to the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water, and environmental stewardship, planting firmly our feet as it relates to continuing to advance our low carbon green growth strategies. To do the same as it relates to vulnerable communities. We're not going to shrink and we're not going to shy or fall prey to the rhetoric around demeaning and belittling vulnerable communities, scapegoating vulnerable communities. We're going to have their back. We're going to have your back. Even if you don't live in the state of California, we're going to have your back.
Okay. I like this. This is the way to go. California is a giant state. Other governors are going to be doing the same thing. There is power at the local level. I am convinced of that. And this would be a moment in our countdown. We are about to go to item 4. This would be a good time to hit like and to subscribe. I would be so grateful. Okay, so what is 4? We're counting down from 10 to 1. What is item 4? Well, we have another person who is a governor, and I think you know who this is. He is ready, and he is not defeated. Let's play this clip from Governor Tim Walz.
I do want to take a few minutes and talk about a few words about our path forward. I know there's a lot of folks that are worried about the next 4 years and what they're going to look like. I'm one of them. The agenda we heard from the other side in this campaign was very different from the one we know is right for our state and our country. We've already seen the damage a president can cause when he's in it for himself, not the American people. Look, we know what's coming down the pike. We know it because they told us. And we're going to have to be ready to defend the progress that we've made here in Minnesota. The other side spent a lot of time campaigning and talking about and promising that they would leave things up to the states. Well, I'm willing to take them at their word for that. But the moment they try and bring a hateful agenda in this state, I'm going to stand ready to stand up and fight for the way we do things here.
Okay. And there are more, of course. There's my governor here in Michigan. There are plenty of more governors who are willing to stand up to authoritarianism. I think that is amazing. Now, what is our third item? Well, some things that aren't so great, right? So let's look at one of the first things Donald Trump says he wants to accomplish. Let's play it.
Part of my plan to secure the border on day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. It's things like this that bring millions of people to our country, and they enter our country illegally.
Okay, so let's translate that. I think you know what he is talking about. He is talking about getting rid of birthright citizenship. And this is, something that has been on his agenda for a long time. And you have to wonder whether this would apply also equally to all the Russian nationals who basically come to one of his resorts in Florida to give birth. And this is a moment where I want to share with you something I wrote because he was talking about this also in 2018. And so I wrote a piece for CNN, and I'm going to do my share screen with you if I can manage this. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can do this. I think you've got this. Let me scroll up. Okay. And here's what, you might not be able to read this. I'm going to drop the link for you if you want to go back to it some other time. I just dropped it in the chat. Before I wrote more exclusively for the Washington Monthly, I did write columns, opinion columns at CNN. This was when I was at Vermont Law School. As you know, I'm now at Wayne State. And since I've been there, done that, I would like to share this with you. I'm hating that there are all these ads here, and maybe I can get rid of them. Maybe not. Okay, so let me read you what I wrote here. And I think this will, not the whole thing, but this will share, I can share better for you my thinking about this at the time I did deep research. So here we go. For most of us, the arrival of a baby into the world brings joy and hope. The newborn cries out for sustenance as family, friends, and community gather around to guide and educate the child from fragile dependency into adulthood. Many of us experience similar feelings of warm welcome toward the children of complete strangers, including immigrants. This sentiment is also sensible. 2 recent studies show that the initial costs of educating new immigrant children are far offset by the economic contributions they will make as adults. But President Donald Trump, this again was written back in 2018, President Donald Trump is not like most of us. In his latest effort to stir up fear and loathing to motivate his diminishing base 1 week before a national election, the president has positioned newborns not as a source for society's renewal, but as threats. Again, so he wants to end birthright citizenship. So what will have to happen, of course, is a Supreme Court decision, because I'm going to tell you this, his proposal is contrary to both American law and long-standing ethical and religious traditions in this country. And citizenship protection for infants born here, regardless of their parentage, was secured 150 years ago in the 14th Amendment to our Constitution. This amendment states, and I'm going to read this to you, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So what does that mean? That was parsed in 1898 in U.S. v. Wong Kim Ark. Remember how Donald Trump wants to go back? He won't want to go back to this case because it is precedent. This is a case where the Supreme Court said that the 14th Amendment, in clear words and in manifest intent, includes the children born within the territory of the United States of all other persons of whatever race or color domiciled within the United States. Every citizen or subject of another country, while domiciled here, is within the allegiance and the protection and consequently subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Okay, so 2 things. One, we're basically saying children born here are citizens. Now, there are exceptions in the U.S. v. Wong Kim Ark case. Exceptions the court identified to birthright citizenship were for children of foreign sovereigns or their ministers, and so on. And so the idea, I'm gonna close this sharing now. The idea here is, if you are the leader, if you are, for example, Vladimir Zelensky, and your wife comes here and has your children because you're the leader of Ukraine, you wouldn't suddenly be able to have your children become American citizens. Okay, so that is an 1898 Supreme Court case. Are you geeking out enough with me? So yeah, will his Supreme Court majority be willing to reverse birthright citizenship? We will soon find out. We will soon find out. That is going to be one of the cases we will be following. Okay, guys. And 2, what is our second to last, our penultimate topic? Well, here we go. And this I need to back up and explain to you. I've been working out this theory that I think the framework that political scientists have been offering to us about authoritarianism, for example, lacks nuance, because they're looking at this entirely through, which is understandable, a political lens. But I am a scholar of corporate governance. And as a corporate governance scholar, I'm thinking, welcome to America, Inc. America Inc., where the shareholders nominally, because they don't actually have this real control in corporate governance, we can talk about this later, the shareholders nominally elect the board, and then the board appoints the CEO. So in that paradigm, we have elected Donald Trump, as the board, essentially, to be the board oversees the affairs, delegates authority of the entity, America Inc., to whoever he wants to run it. And I think you know where this goes. If Donald Trump is the board of directors, the chairman of the board, the CEO, my friends, and I'm going to put this, do I have this here? The CEO, item 2, our penultimate topic is, I'm looking in the chat, who can guess right? Who is the CEO of America? Who is the CEO of America right now? Who is the incoming CEO? Anyone? Anyone? You know who it is. The incoming CEO, my friends, is Elon Musk. Let's play it.
Mar-a-Lago has basically been brimming for the last 2 days, I'm told, with two kinds of people. Those angling for a job and those who are trying to influence Trump into hiring their picks. But one person has loomed over all of that. His name is Elon Musk. Multiple sources tell me tonight that Musk has been seen at Mar-a-Lago nearly every single day since Donald Trump won, dining with him on the patio at times. Today, they were seen on the golf course together. Musk has been in the room when world leaders have called Trump. And tonight we've learned he's also weighing in on staffing decisions, making clear his preference for certain roles even. Publicly tonight, Elon Musk is backing Florida Senator Rick Scott as the next leader of the Republican conference to replace Mitch McConnell. While Musk himself is still not expected to take any kind of formal position inside Trump's administration, given how complicated it would be with his companies, what's becoming clearer tonight is that he doesn't really need to, with one source telling me Elon Musk is having just as much influence from the outside.
Inside, outside, what does that even mean? This is a false dichotomy. Elon Musk is inside the administration, whether he has a role or not. He is Donald Trump's CEO, period. So when you think about it like that, where do we go from here? I'm going to be using this paradigm throughout this week to kind of lay this out. I do think it's helpful because it will help us understand the moves that they might make. As for Rick Scott was, I believe, either settled or adjudicated fraudster involving Medicare or Medicaid fraud. Not surprising. That seems to be what this sort of, what I wrote about, sadly, in Big Dirty Money, the book that came out. Viking put out the Viking, which is part of Penguin Random House, put out the hardcover. And of course, Penguin, that does paperbacks, put out the softcover. This book came out in 2020. And then you can read the paperback from 2021. And the message there, dare I repeat myself, is that the white, wealthy, and well-connected use white-collar crime. Use essentially fraud and other things like money laundering, fraud, tax evasion. They use it to gain money and power because they are basically immune from criminal consequences for that conduct. And as I mentioned, in the preface to the book, that had Donald Trump ever been held criminally accountable over the years for much of his malfeasance, which was treated and said as civil infractions because it's easy to just settle out those cases with government agencies. If he'd gotten anything more than a slap on the wrist, he may have served time in federal prison instead of the Oval Office. And so now he and his like-minded people are running things. And that is where we are. It's not the end of the world. I think they're going to massively fail at what they're doing. But it's not going to be pretty along the way. So again, as I said at the outset, let's build our communities around ourselves to bring joy. And, I don't really love what Elon Musk did to Twitter. I'm not going to love what Elon Musk does to America Inc. But here we are. He's president in anything he is the CEO, President and CEO of America, in not in name, but in power. Okay, so let us now, our last top, in our countdown, number one today, of course, is Crazy Town. That's how it has to always be. And I realize I did not put up, here we go. There, we're at Gen Top Live. So, Crazy Town, we need our Crazy Town music. Let's go. Senator Sanders. And it's great because someone tries to pin him down on a question, and the way he responds is absolutely so, like, how do I put it? It's just so flat that instead of rolling, it's the equivalent, it's the Bernie Sanders equivalent of rolling his eyes at a stupid question he does not want to answer. Let's play it.
Quickly, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Some Democrats behind the scenes quietly talking about the possibility, should Justice Sotomayor step down, to allow President Biden to appoint someone who's younger. She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
Have you heard any talk of this?
A little bit, yes. I don't think it's a sensible approach.
And you don't think it's a sensible approach?
Correct.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders.
So I love this. And let me break this down, this Crazy Town moment. He's not going to get into it. Now, you all might be thinking, wait, this would be a good time because this would give Joe Biden an opportunity to appoint someone. And you might think that if you're on smoking crack. You actually think Mitch McConnell is going to let him replace her now? You effing kidding me? So Bernie Sanders, I'm sure, had all of those thoughts in his head as he stared at Kristen Welker, but he just decided that he was not going to participate in Crazy Town. Okay, guys, I will see you tomorrow morning on the dot at 8 a.m. Thanks for being here. Remember to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any shows. Thanks for being here.